Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro Bodybuilder. Today's guest is Joe Mackey. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
For sure. You're very welcome. Joe, the first question I have for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
I'm definitely going to start off, of course, with Ronnie. Of course, he's, here in our hometown, Dallas, Texas. And I, do, kind of mock a little bit in regards to his training style, the way I train to this day. Heavy, high volume, high intensity. So Ronnie's definitely going to be at the top of that list. Kevin Leroney is definitely going to be the next guy for sure. Any bodybuilder that was, carried the mass and not only looked the part, but, could move some weight like they did in the gym. I've always been a fan of that. So those top two bodybuilders for sure are definitely going to be Ronnie, Kevin, and of course my training coach, Dennis. So, he's another guy that was a mass monster, obviously, of course, and then moved some serious weight as well too. So definitely like that style for sure. That's kind of what I do still to this day. Very
cool. Now we'll get into it, but you also are coached by Ronnie's coach, Chad Nichols. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chad is my coach. He was my coach last year, going into last year. Well, actually, this year, getting ahead of myself. So Chad, we've been working together this past prep, and we're going into next year working together as well too.
Cool. And we'll get into that a little bit more. I just wanted to touch on that because it's got to be kind of cool that, Ronnie's like your all-time favorite bodybuilder, then having the opportunity to work with his nutritionist and coach is neat. We'll touch on that in a little bit. The second question here, Joe, just to kind of kickstart the conversation, at what age did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I probably started lifting, I don't know what age that is, but I definitely started lifting when I was in elementary school, actually. My dad was a lifter. He didn't compete or anything like that, but strong guy back in the day for sure. And we actually had a home gym in our garage. So we would definitely, and we call them prison weights, but I feel like those weights were 10 times heavier than the gym weight. So, and they probably were, which is probably maybe, why my strength is kind of where it is now. But so yeah, I started lifting actually when I was in probably like 5th, 6th grade.
Cool. Now, I've had a few of my other IFBB Pro guests talk about their dad's influence in getting them into training. And it's always interesting. Obviously, older generations, the bodybuilding, the social media wasn't there. Bodybuilding was there, but it wasn't what it is today. How did your dad get into strength training then?
My dad was a military guy, so he was in the Army. And, I think it was just, I've really never asked him how he got into it, but I know, just from looking at past pictures when he was younger, built very well, kind of like what I have still, big shoulders, big arms. He actually had a very big chest. It took me a little bit longer to build my chest, obviously. And I used to have a, weak chest actually. So it's, thankfully it's growing now. But he was a military guy and didn't play any sports or anything like that. But, when we were kids, we would go to the gym and he was the strongest guy in the gym when we went there. I remember seeing him put 3 plates on bench, 4 plates on bench and rubbing it out. And we used to think that was just unheard of. So yeah, he was just, had the strength and all natural guy as well too. It's one thing that he still would be honest with me to this day. Obviously he knows I compete professionally and he really didn't get involved in competing or anything like that. But yeah, just a strong, just all around guy.
That's cool, man. That's cool to have that influence. I kind of like to use that latter question just to kind of transition into just a little bit. It's always fun to kind of get the backstory of my guests. So if you don't mind sharing just a little bit, Joe, where did you grow up? I know you already mentioned your dad being in the Army, so I'm assuming you probably moved around a little bit, but why don't you just touch on that childhood a little bit, talk about maybe some of the sports you were involved with and up to about high school, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, no, we didn't move around too much. He was already out of the Army when we were growing up. So he worked full time. Mom worked full time. Both parents are still together, still to this day. So they've been together over 40 years. We grew up actually in Mesquite. Went to elementary school, middle school, all the time in Mesquite, and actually went to West Mesquite High School. Played football all throughout. As a little kid, played Pee Wee football. And I still tell people to this day, it's like even when I was a little kid, I was a aggressor, which means like even in Pee Wee football, I was small, I was skinny, but I still remember that I was one of those guys that would just like to put the hat down, man. I wasn't afraid to hit anybody and take a hit and deliver a hit the whole nine. And I was like that all the way from elementary school to middle school to high school. And high school, played football, of course, as a freshman. Ended up being a 3-year varsity letterman. So after freshman, I got recruited to go up to the varsity team. And just, I kind of had that just aggression. Even at that point, I wasn't afraid to, go toe to toe with anybody. And I can, stand in front of the hardest hitting guy at that point, even though he might run me over, whatever the case is, but I just wasn't afraid just to either take a hit or deliver a hit. And, even at that point, when I went from high school to college, it was just, I went from high school to college and incorporate that into lifting. So went from high school weighing 185 pounds. And actually in high school, I was kind of known as the big guy, surprisingly. And it wasn't just because I was a big guy overall. It's because I had big arms in high school. My arms at high school were like 18 or 19 inches. So I remember the first time people noticed them and they're like, man, look at your arms. I'm like, what's wrong with them? They're like, you have big arms. So, and then the rest is golden from there.
Yeah. Yeah. What, now when you mentioned what school you went to, I'm assuming that was in Texas. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I went to high school. I was in West Mesquite High School, and then I was in Mesquite, Texas. Then I went to college, Angelo State University. That was actually in San Angelo, Texas.
Okay, so everybody that's listening, I'm sure understands that Texas football is no joke. So, what position did you play in high school then, Joe?
I was a linebacker in defense, and I was a fullback in offense. So I went both ways, and same thing. It's they put me at linebacker, obviously, of course, I could, plug a gap, when someone's coming through it. And, like I said, I had no problem, laying the hat on somebody. And then obviously as a running back, same thing. It's, running, I wasn't the fastest, 40 time was maybe, 4.6, 4.7. So we had a lot of guys on the team that were a lot faster, but, just in regards to, my mentality, even was somewhat there, even in high school, as far as, just, being that aggressor and, just going toe to toe.
For sure. Now I saw on your IG, just kind of prepping a little bit for our chat. You have a nephew, so I'm assuming obviously you have a sibling or something like that. So why don't you touch on that? And then once you just mention your siblings, just talk about, I know you already mentioned a little bit about your influence of your dad getting you into the weight training, but just talk about maybe something that your parents kind of like ingrained in you from childhood that kind of still remains with you to this day.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my dad was, kind of, he was military, but he wasn't, he was just an Army dad. He was strict, obviously. But I was actually, a good kid coming up. Not really a troublemaker or anything like that. Obviously my dad was big and strong, so I never really wanted to get on his bad side. And not saying it never happened, but didn't never want that to happen. It happened as less as possible because he was strong and and as kids, man, we were disciplined. So we got whoopings and I didn't want to take too much of those, especially from my dad. So. But just coming up, man, just teaching us in regards to just how to be a man. And, that's the same thing I kind of instilled to my nephew right now. I do have an older brother. He's 2 years older than I am. And, our dad just kind of taught us in regards to just, working hard for what you want, of course, not making excuses, being accountable. And that's the same thing, that I teach my nephew now, like, nobody owes you anything. You want something, work hard for it, go get it, and, life can be hard, it's not, nothing. Sometimes things don't go as planned, but, when things happen, you just have to kind of keep pushing forward, of course. And, a lot of people have a lot of reasons to give up. And, But it's, it's that mentality that keeps you moving forward, because things are going to happen in our lives that are unexpected, that we're not ready for. But it's good that when we have that close family and close friends, of course, and guidance as well too. But also, you got to have that strong mentality just to keep moving forward when things happen. Because I've had things happen. Life hasn't always been easy. It's just been one of those things to where a lot of things I had to learn. Some things I learned the hard way. But I'm here, and I'm still growing, still moving forward, and still have goals ahead that I want to accomplish. So, it just never stops. And even when I do get there, it's just gotta keep it going as well too. So it's life. It's just part of life.
For sure, for sure. I was gonna bring this up, and you kind of already brought it up, but just for the listener's sake, on one of your posts, you said kind of your mindset is always don't complain, just continue to grind, right? So that's kind of what you just said, but love that quote, man. Now, you mentioned college football, so why don't you just touch on that for a quick minute? Going to college, what did you study? Playing football, what was that like? And then we'll kind of just dive into all things bodybuilding after that.
College, I didn't really get too much involved in college football. I went out there to play and completely lost interest, and kind of devoted my time to working out, and realized in a short period of time that I enjoyed being more in the weight room than I did, finding interest, playing football on a football field. And after that, it was kind of, kind of took off from there as well too. I was all through high school, all through college. I was completely all natural. Like I said, I went to college weighing 180 pounds. And going to college, I had my parents help me out, of course. I remember working in college, and even in college, just didn't want to ask my parents for money all the time. And I was working a job there. I actually worked at a video store up there, and then quit that video store, ended up working at GNC. And I feel like that was an advantage just because of the fact that I was able to, buy my protein and buy my supplements, and story that I tell a lot of people. But like I said, I was 185 pounds my first semester in college, and was working out, eating anything I could get my hands on. TV dinners, burritos, obviously those big mega match protein shakes you got back then. Just eating as much as I can. I just had a goal. I just told myself I wanted to get over 200 pounds. I don't care if I was going to be fat or not, because I just wanted to get over 200. And I did. I remember when I got over 200, I wanted more. So I kept lifting, kept eating more. And it seems like the more I lifted, the heavier I lifted. And it was just a good cycle that just kept growing and growing and growing. And I remember I went back home after a year for Christmas break, and I was weighing 245 after going to school at 180. Like I said, all natural. And, it's something I like to, preach to people now, is that, even when it comes to, subs and stuff like that, I have people ask me this and every that. And it's like, I grew a good amount, all natural, absolutely, for sure. And, I could touch more into that as far as that goes. But, it goes a long way when you're lifting, with intensity. And obviously I've learned a lot just over the years, just in regards to, activating the muscle, lifting correctly, nutrition, because even back then, of course, I was eating everything I get my hands on. And, but, year after year, it's just been a learning concept, obviously working with some great coaches that I've worked with over my bodybuilding career. But it's just been a process, man, this whole time, just from where I started to where I am now. Even when I first got into bodybuilding, I remember my first coach, just getting in shape the last 6 weeks of a prep going into the show. It was breakfast. It was fish for breakfast, fish for meal 2, fish for meal 3, fish for meal 4, and fish for all 6 meals. And after that first show, I told myself I'd never do a show again, because I just hated it. It was miserable, that damn fish, obviously. But I've learned a lot, obviously, since then. And of course, fish is actually a good concept going into, as far as thinning the skin out and getting tighter as we get closer. But it's just, you just never stop learning, man. And it's just one of those things where even out to this point, even working with working with Chad, it's been another big learning year as well too. Just working with him this last prep. So, going into this next year, it's going to be, it's exciting. So we're looking forward to, what's going to happen in the future as well.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into the future here in a minute. Now I'm curious, who was like the first actual pro bodybuilder who was actually the first pro bodybuilder that you saw? Like, was it like something like Arnold on a movie? Was it a magazine? What was kind of like that first professional bodybuilder that you actually laid eyes on, not necessarily in person? And what do you think kind of like really pulled you in to bodybuilding, Joe?
The first bodybuilder I saw, like I said, was I remember when we were kids, my dad would always give us reading material, and he would actually give us muscular development magazines. And I would look at those guys. But even back then, man, I look at those magazines and look at those guys, and I just feel like, God dang, man, like I'll never ever look like this. I'll never ever get to that point. And just thinking like these guys are huge. This is just a whole nother level. And here we are now. So, but as far as I'll kind of touch base on the first bodybuilder that I actually saw in person. I actually went to I want to say it's Nationals when it was in Dallas, I believe. But I remember being there with some friends, and my buddy tapped me and saying, "Hey, see that guy right there? He's probably going to win the show." And I was like, "Man, how? He looks so small." And I remember he took his jumpsuit off and he was on stage. It was just mind blowing. I was just like, my gosh, like he didn't look like that under his clothes. But it was Chris Cook, back when he was competing. And but I just remember seeing him and just thinking like, man, that's insane. Like, compared to what I had saw on the magazines and this and that, because I'm not gonna lie, I never wanted to be one of those guys that walked around. Cause I remember going to the mall with my parents and seeing a bodybuilder, walk around in a mall and having the what do you call it, the tank top with the strings and short shorts and the combat boots. And I was like, I'm not going to go around walking like that, man. If that's what being a bodybuilder is, then that's not for me. But, just in regards to, and seeing Chris, it wasn't like that was just like, any different. Obviously, like I said, I saw him in a jumpsuit right before prejudging and stuff like that. But, what really got me into it was just, I had already liked to lift heavy. I enjoyed being in the gym. I enjoyed seeing what I could do to my body, seeing where my body can go, seeing what type of numbers I could hit when it came to hitting PRs. And really the thing that got me involved in it was just a good friend of mine saying, have you ever thought about bodybuilding? And, I just said no. And, he kind of told me about it, of course. And I didn't think too far into it as far as like possibilities of going pro or what type of future I could have with it. It was just something at the time that I said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. And, that's when I did my first show, of course. And like I said, I know how I felt after my first show. I was done after that. And then, life happened. And years later, got back to it. And then, just won that show actually. And then, the rest goes from there.
How old were you, Joe, when you did that first competition?
If you pull up my name, when they show Joe Mackey and it shows all the competitions, I don't even think this competition is on there because I think they showed my first competition as the Ronnie Coleman, which is the show that I won. But actually before that, I did a show which was the Lone Star Prince Harrison show, and I want to say that was maybe in like 2007. I mean, I was probably I know I was in my early 20s. Well, I could have even been 19, but maybe 19, early 20s for sure. And that was the Lone Star, and that's when I placed third. And that was actually my first original show, to where when I did that show, I hated it. I didn't want nothing else to do with it. And then, my next show after that was in 2010 is when I got back on stage. And then that's kind of when I got serious at that point and, won that show, which was Ronnie Coleman as a novice, and was able to win that show, then go on to the Texas State and won that show as a super heavyweight, and then went on to North Americans where I placed ninth, I believe. Yeah.
Now, before we get into you turning pro and keep moving in that direction, you mentioned from that first show up until 2010, when you kind of got back into competing, you just said life happened. I mean, you don't have to get into like too many personal details, but what did happen in that time? And was there any like takeaways that you feel like from that time in between competing that has kind of like helped you to where you're at today?
Yeah, I mean, so that time from my first show to the next show I did, I mean, a lot of things happened, obviously. Got involved, of course, in the industry, the fitness industry, and started personal training, of course. Was able to go from personal trainer to being a manager to a fitness director, moving up the ladder in regards to running some clubs, of course, in that industry. And just working, just getting into that lifestyle, of course, and just making a living. And ended up starting a family and was had a baby boy, and that was it was 2010 actually. So, but a lot of people know this, a lot of people don't. But I don't talk about it a lot, but a lot of people, close to me, that you do know. But in 2010, my son passed away, and after that, then that's when, honestly speaking, and that's kind of like why I'm like this at this point. I can hear somebody. I kind of pick and choose what I have empathy for in regards to when I hear a person expressing, and which is why I'm like this when I say no excuses, or the whole nine, because I've seen so much. Obviously, I've had some things happen in my life as well too. Because when that happened, I could have quit, I could have gave up, I could have made excuse after excuse. But I actually had an outlet in regards, and that's when I was already lifting it at that point. I was already a big guy. I was already strong. And then I just kind of told myself, why don't I do something with this? And, now's the time. And, I remember that first show, no one could tell me anything. It was just me and my coach. It was just like, he told me, how to train, what to eat, and I did it. If you got in my way or if you were a distraction, it was just like, you're out of here, or whatever the case is, because that's how, I was just tunnel vision, because that was my outlet in regards to dealing with, the pain and sadness of loss, of course. And, that's when, I went to that show, of course. And I still use that to this day, even when I lift heavy, a lot of people ask, how'd you get so strong, or what supplement are you taking, or yes, formed a long way, absolutely. But how do you have this unforeseen strength, or whatever this case? I said, man, it's something you can't teach. It's mental. If I went to a weight and looked at the weight and was intimidated by it, or scared by it, or told myself I can't do this, or doubted every heavy set I'm gonna do, or every rep that I'm about to do, then obviously it's not going to happen. But I have every heavy set or PR that you guys see me do, it goes more than just physical strength. It's it's a big mental part of it that goes into every extremely heavy lift, for sure. And I think that's the thing that a lot of successful people have in common, is that a lot of successful people, I feel like they do have a story. And it's just one of those things to where, like I said, when life happens, you can choose to either crumble, or give up, or feel sorry for yourself, and or you could choose to use it, work through it, push yourself, and just keep moving forward. So yeah, you got two different choices, and I chose just keep moving forward.
Very, very well put, Joe. Quickly, when you got into like managing, gyms and clubs, things like that, what was that experience like? Did you enjoy that, or was it a little different than you thought it was going to be?
It was cool. I mean, I'm typed to where I enjoyed it. Obviously, of course, at that point it was most money I had been making, especially at a young age. And my thing is that once I get to a certain point, and there's nowhere else to go, like advancement opportunities, then I'm just looking around like, what's next? Like, I'm bored now. Like, I've kind of peaked out, and this isn't everything I want. Like, I want more. And when something is blocking me, then I kind of at that point, I'm looking for more opportunity, you know, and at this point, you know, I have, you know, obviously my online business, you know, I work for myself, of course, you know, and, you know, no one stops my, you know, advancement to leveling up. You know, the only thing that's stopping me would be me, but, you know, I get up every day and work hard for what I want.
For sure. Talk about, since we're kind of there at that point, Innate Imaging, you're the co-owner of that. What is that? And how did you get into that area?
Yeah, Innate Imaging, it's a medical imaging. So we do MRI, CT scans. So I got into that. Before that, I was doing medical sales, pharmaceutical. So back when, you know, last pharmaceutical things were going well, of course, and the opportunity came around for a business partner of mine to inquire and look into, you know, invest into this medical center where they already had a good business flow in regards to doing MRI, CT scans. And I had kind of already knew about the business because a good friend of mine obviously owns a lot of different MRIs and medical imaging facilities around the nation. So it was a good opportunity at the time. Was able to make a good investment towards it, became a partner. And it's been, you know, it's a smart move for sure. You know, it's one of those things that's not going anywhere, of course. You know, medical is you know, one of those things. Obviously, it's never a good thing when someone calls me and says they need an MRI. Obviously, that means an injury. But in that case, of course, they know that, you know, they have an outlet, you know, that we're here to help them for sure. If they need an MRI, CT scan for whatever they need.
Yeah, for sure. So you kind of mentioned like leveling up, and I think this ties very well into bodybuilding, because within bodybuilding, there's always the opportunity to progress, right? So obviously with bodybuilding, I think we kind of understand that, but just in life, like, you know, just speaking maybe to the younger listener, somebody maybe that feels like they're stuck in their life, whether they're a bodybuilder or not, Joe, like what do we need to do to level up in life? Like, what does that practically look like? I know that might look different for everybody, but, you know, maybe just giving some advice to the listener. How can we level up?
You know, obviously everybody has different lives and everybody's situation is different. But, you know, I think a lot of, you know, things come off in regards to how, you know, society could be. You know, I think, you know, a 25-year-old can look at another 25-year-old and let's say they're way ahead of them, and, you know, they either can get motivated from it, or they can get overwhelmed from it, or they can get discouraged by it. And, you know, one thing when it comes to leveling up is, you know, I could just kind of do what I could just kind of relate on kind of things that I practiced whenever I was looking into being better. Obviously, I didn't know it all, but it really comes down from, you know, kind of like I tell, you know, my nephew, it's one thing at a time. You know, everybody has specific goals. You know, my specific goals when I was coming up is, you know, I wanted a, you know, nice place. I wanted a badass cars. I put an S on that. You know, I wanted to make money. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. You know, and I was just looking for, you know, the answer in regards to that. And one thing, and that's it's such, I could go on hours talking about this. So I'm trying to summarize it as best as I can. But really overall, what I've learned, even at this point where I am right now, is that when you're doing something that you really enjoy doing, you're never going to work a day in your life. You know, I wake up every single day enjoying everything I do. You know, I remember when I was making good money, working in corporate America, you know, working the medical side of things and doing this, but I woke up every day, I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a passion. So with what I do now, it's something that it doesn't seem like work. You know, yes, I get to, I have the flexibility and convenience of not having to get up at 6 or 7 in the morning to go to a 8-hour job and have a lunch break or nothing like that. I mean, I kind of make my schedule, of course, and but I still have to hustle. I still have to work hard, of course. You know, it doesn't really get to a point to where things are easy, because the minute you get easy, I feel like the minute you get comfortable, and the minute you get comfortable is the minute that things kind of start to fall off, or you know, just not grow. So you constantly have to get up every single day or every week, we have bad days, we have bad weeks, but you kind of got to, have that mind frame, like, what can I be doing today to get better? And it's when you're at a point and when you're trying to level up and you have all these tasks or all these things that you want to accomplish, that you want to do, and it's just, let's say it comes off as overwhelming, then, I'll tell myself this, whenever I get overwhelmed, is one thing at a time and start with the most important thing. And knock that first thing out, the most important thing, and then go on to the next. Because if you have 10 different things you're trying to do and accomplish, and you just wake up every day or every single day, you're going on and on, how am I gonna handle these 10 things? Then it's easy to fall off and get discouraged and to get overwhelmed. But like I said, just handle one thing at a time. And then once you accomplish that, go on to the next. And everybody has their list of things that they want to do. So apply it, go with the most important and set yourself up for success. Obviously, if the most important thing is to, I want to make $1 million. Well, I mean, we all want to make $1 million, I'm sure, but what's the first step to doing it? So, and that could be, like I said, that's different for everybody. So, and sometimes, like I said, money isn't the ultimate goal. It's in regards to what your specific goal is, and whatever your specific goal is, one thing at a time. And that goes for everything. It could be, I want to get my master's degree. It could be, somebody wants to, retire their parents, or somebody wants to travel the world. Okay, well, all of those goals have specific things that require certain steps, which is going to start with doing one thing at a time.
Words of wisdom, man. I love it. Dropping some bombs, Joe. I appreciate it, man. Let's get into all things bodybuilding. So you said your first North Americans, you got 9th place. Why don't we pick up from there? Talk about the rest of your amateur, competition history, and then when and where did you turn pro at? And then we'll kind of get into your pro history, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, first national show was North Americans placed 9th, and might be a little shaky on some of these places as far as it goes, but I want to say it took me about at least 3 to 5 years to go pro, actually attempting national shows. About 4, I think on my 5th time is exactly when I was able to go ahead and get my pro card. And I went pro, placed in 2nd place at nationals, which was in Miami. I was working with Chris Lucido at the time. That's another thing that Chris taught me was the power of food. And I remember when I first started working with him, it was the first time I realized how important getting nutrients in was, and not depriving the body of carbs, or, obviously we did our cardio, twice a day, but the power of food, when you're trying to put on that lean muscle mass and grow, there's no supplement out there that's going to overpower food. And, you want to put on some good size, you got to eat. So, and I'm talking about when I worked with him, I saw just that, of course, and it was literally the most food I had ever ate in my life. But, it's really what took me to that next level. It wasn't any supplement. A lot of people ask that, like, man, I saw you here, I saw these pictures there, then I see this, like, what was it? What'd you take? I took some things, but what really was the big thing for me was food. I would say that a million times.
Now, when you turned pro, when you earned your IFBB Pro card, what was that experience like? What kind of just touch on the maybe the emotions were, because you got 2nd place and you got your IFBB Pro card. Did that kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth? Or are you the type of guys like, hey, I got my pro card and I'm going to do something with it? Why don't you just touch on those feelings, those emotions when you finally did earn that IFBB Pro card?
No, it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. I was thankful in regards to it, of course. And I knew at that point that I could just continue getting better, obviously. And, after I got my pro card, I didn't do a show immediately after. I waited a year, and then I did the Ferrigno Classic, Ferrigno Legacy. Worked with Chris as well, too. We had a great prep, went into that show looking really good. And I placed top 10 pro debut. Was very happy with that. Just standing out there with some of the great bodybuilders, Brandon Curry at the time, Cedric McMillian. And it was just they remember they called them top 10 out on stage, and just standing with those guys and just being starstruck in regards to like, these are the guys that I have been watching for, years, and now I'm on stage with them. And, now I'm able to, go toe to toe with these guys as well. And I remember talking to Cedric a lot, and he, very funny guy, very cool guy, relaxed me a lot. She probably still doesn't know that to the day, but just talking up with him and being able to, get some tension off as well, and going into that show and just having a good time. Really, that's what it's all about. Not being too nervous, and was able to put on.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just able to put on a good show, and it was good for sure.
Excellent, man. So why don't you just talk a little bit then about some of your other pro shows? I know you competed in the Chicago Pro this year, but from that pro debut, what are some of the other shows that you've competed in? What's been your highest placing, and then what's kind of the goal moving forward?
Highest placing. I want to say actually unfortunately, I think the 9th place actually has been my highest placing as far as that goes. We're at this point where we're trying to dial things in at this point, and I might actually have to retract that answer as far as it goes. But I need to eat my next meal. My brain might not be working just as well. But Chicago Pro, the last show that I did, I felt that we brought a good package. We went into that show, of course, working with Chad as my coach. It's definitely the largest I've been. I was on stage in my mid 260s, compared to being on stage on my pro debut at around 248 or 245. So, we're putting on some good amount of tissue. We know that we have all the parts as far as it goes when it comes to having a foundation, being able to, stand next to some top guys. It's really but just about putting all the puzzles together, all the puzzles and pieces, and put them together correctly. People do this sport, year after year, and it's, one prep is never like the year before. So you constantly have to make changes. You constantly have to, obviously get better. And, obviously we've seen it just in this industry, just year after year after year. Somebody could come in great one year, and then the next year, they can be off, or one year a guy can be off and then come back the next year and blow everybody out. So it's really just about fine tuning, and, it does take a lot in regards to, sorry with that. It does take a lot in regards to, prepping for, 20 weeks and then knowing that you only have that one day for, morning show and evening show to display your best, of course. And then, if you don't leave that show with a great placement, of course, no one's going to be happy about that, obviously. Even if it's, making a mistake or making an error or doing this instead of doing that, or whatever the case is. But, that's just part of, once again, kind of like I talked at the beginning, that's just part of life. Like when things don't happen the way you want them to go, you just got to kind of just, take a step back. Obviously, it's nothing wrong with having emotions and being in your feelings and, cursing, in your head, or, saying this or saying that. But at the end of the day, when you're passionate about something, then you just keep going for it. And, I'm passionate about it, obviously, of course, and I'm already looking forward to this next prep. I've been talking to Chad, and, we're obviously already putting the game plan together now, and looking into how we're going to go ahead and, start this prep, and, been staying in shape this all season. So it's just really excited feeling going into this next prep for sure.
When's the next prep start? And then what's kind of the goal going into 2020? What show are you guys looking at?
We don't know yet. I don't know what show it's going to be just yet. I'm not sure if the calendar's out just yet. But prep is probably going to start, as probably about, I would say, it's kind of prep is kind of starting now, because a good prep starts with a good all season. And we're on all season prep right now. Obviously we have structure right now with the food, with the cardio, with the training. So when we actually turn it on to in season, I'm not sure yet, because right now, things are, up to par. Things are looking good, of course, with how things have been. And then, now we just have to see when the, I'm not gonna say the hard stuff, but when the in season prep starts, which obviously that's going to be a little bit different. But, one thing I like about prep is that for the most part, I usually grow into shows because, we don't go into prep with reducing carbs or calories or anything like that. If anything, that food might even go up even more, which is high now. But, when I prep, I'm lifting heavy now, but I know when I prep, obviously I do lift with a lot more intensity. So I'm taking this all season. I'm lifting heavy, lifting with intensity. Just going into prep is just going to be a little bit of a difference for sure.
So if you don't mind me asking, like you were working with Chris Aceto, he helped you turn pro, and then now you're working with Chad Nichols. What kind of goes into the mindset of going from one elite coach to another? Is it kind of just that mindset of like, hey, I want to learn more. I want to level up, like what we were talking about earlier. I want to see maybe what this coach can offer. What does that look like? Because I know for a lot of people, it's like, man, they're working with Chris Aceto, like that's the ultimate coach to work alongside, have them coach. You being able to move it with work with Chad Nichols now, moving to him. What goes into that mindset and that decision?
It's kind of a, I never thought actually I would be working with Chad Nichols. In the way, like I said, that kind of happened is, I would just say, just the grace of God, obviously. Of course, him and I having a great conversation, and then, one thing led to another, and here we are. But, Chris is a great coach. Every coach I've worked with has been a great coach. And, my thought process in regards to, wanting to work with these guys is like what you said. It's like, they're geniuses in regards to what they do. They've worked with the best of the best. Their history shows it. And, if I can take some knowledge in regards to working with these guys and, being able to gain wisdom from what they know, and not only, because wisdom is something that we never forget, or, never was just like going to school. So, working with these great coaches, it's just, like I said, it's just like going to school and working with a trade that you really want to know. Hey, what's up? And, whenever I could take a trade from someone that's great, then obviously I would do it. Oh gosh.
For sure. Look at what's your dog's name?
This is Sky right here. She's barking at me because she's not getting any attention right now. So.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll start wrapping up. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got a lot going on. So earlier you mentioned how your chest was a weak body part for you in the past, right? So speaking to the listeners out there that have a weak body part, what have you found that helps kind of you, Joe, to bring up a lagging body part or a weak body part? How did you take a weak chest and turn it into something that's maybe a strong point for your physique now?
It's all about activation. When I work with, hands-on with, guys out here, it's activating the muscle. Yes, you guys see me lifting tons of heavy weights and moving some heavy pounds around, of course. But even when I do, it's any muscle that you work in, you have to stretch that muscle out. And you have to squeeze, it's just complete activation. You can lift a lot of weight, but if you're not squeezing that muscle, if blood's not going into that muscle, if you're not retracting it, then it's not going to grow. And, a lot of people think like, yeah, I can do the heavy weight or I can do the high reps and this, but every single rep, you still have to squeeze. And every single workout that I do, was it's biceps, triceps, chest, back, shoulders, I'm squeezing and getting as much blood into each rep that I can. And that's the only way that my chest was able to grow, or any other body part for that matter, is that, every single rep, it's not just, going through emotions, like squeeze guys, like, just have someone put their, let's say you're working hamstrings, and, some people have a hard time activating their hamstrings. Have someone put their hand on your hamstrings, and it does kind of help the mind and give you that mind-body connection as well too. So not only should they be able to feel that your hamstrings are activated and squeezing, but you should be able to feel that as well too. And if you're not lighten the weight if you're going heavy, and then focus on the activation, focus on the squeeze of each rep of each body part that you're doing. And, don't go up in weight until you feel that activation.
Great advice, man. So I think it was early this week, you pulled 800 pounds on the deadlift, right? Or maybe that was an older post, but I know you go heavy, man. Is 800 the heaviest you've gone on the deadlift, or have you gone heavier?
I've done 815 before. So I pulled 815 for one. And, that 800 pounds I did that on Friday. So, and I hadn't deadlifted in, like I said, about 6 weeks because I had strained my groin prior to that. So, and I still felt a little bit in my groin, but I was just like, it'll be okay. And like I said, 800 is just feeling like another, working set right now. And it's a lot more in there. It's a lot more in the tank for sure. So, I work with, all season I do a lot of work with Jailhouse Strong, Josh Bryant. So we've been working together for a lot of different things with my form and, being on a program for that, and talking to him. I always have a bodybuilder, but I have PR goals as well too, powerlifting goals. And I mean, he's confident. And when he told me the number, I was like, man, really? Like, he's confident we can pull a 900-pound deadlift in the future. And we're going to work towards that. And it'd be cool to kind of do that while we're prepping as well too. And knowing my strength is good right now, but it can be a lot better, obviously, as we get, into some more food, of course, and start adding in a couple more things as prep starts. Then, I'm excited to see what we can do as well too.
Yeah, man. I think Ronnie, when he pulled his 800 pounds in his video, he had some sort of like a power suit on, I think. And you're just pulling it with wraps and with a belt, right?
Yeah, just wraps. And actually, no, Ronnie had he had that power suit on squats.
Okay.
Yeah, deadlift, he had like a tank top on. But like you said, 800 pounds to 800 pounds. It's not, you still have to take it seriously, obviously. It's still heavy. But I just know how I am when it comes to pulling weight or lifting weight or whatever the case is. Like, if I get, kick that aggression in there or get my mind right, then, I would say it's a little bit, a different level of strength. But just noticing when I did 800 the other day, I was kind of, I was talking throughout my sets. I was having a good time, and I was like, oh, okay, 800 pounds, let me try it. And I was able to pull it, set it down, and, immediately start laughing. So, so when the mind's there, when we trigger things a little bit more, then I'm curious, like I said, what that number is going to be and how easy I can make some heavy weight look. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good. All right. Last couple of questions here, and then I'll let you go, Joe. Ultimate goal for bodybuilding, is it to step on the Olympia stage and place at the Olympia, or is it something different for you?
Yeah, ultimate goal is Olympia is to be a top three. And I say top three just being reserved. Ultimate goal of bodybuilding is to be a top three contender at the Olympia. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So any final words or anything you would like to leave with the listeners? We've had a pretty thorough conversation. I appreciate that. But anything you'd like to leave with the listeners, and then also touch on, being a sponsored athlete with Animal and Gasp. I think those are probably two of the most legit companies within bodybuilding and the fitness industry. So why don't you touch on that after you share your final thoughts and words?
Yeah, those are actually my final thoughts. I definitely want to give a big thank you to Animal. The thing with Animal is that when when they first reached out to me, it was definitely a blessing just in regards to, I grew up taking animal products. Animal products were the first thing that my dad gave us as vitamins. And, I've said this in a recent interview before, is that I remember taking those vitamins back then, and I was so frail as a kid or whatever, I couldn't swallow them back then. And I had the hardest problem trying to swallow, some of the vitamins as far as that goes. But I just remember, growing up on Animal and my dad taking that, of course. And, when they reached out and we talked and we were able to, come to agreement and getting signed on, it was very surreal as far as that goes. And I've told them straight up, I was like, man, I plan on being with you guys for the rest of my bodybuilding career. And they're a great group of guys, great company. I enjoy all their products, take all their products, and just all around legit company. Gas, another thing. And, I was actually first introduced to Gas. Obviously, I had been here for some time and wasn't going to Destination, which is where Gas is at. But prior to when COVID happened, which was 2020, I believe, I started going over their destination, became, very good friends with Michael, the owner of Destination, the owner of Gas, and just made myself familiar over there. Obviously, of course, we had good talks in regards about the future, about, what the goals are, what his vision is, what my vision is. And, we were able to just work together and, collab, and then had a great conversation where he offered me a, sponsorship, of course, contract with Gas as a athlete. And, same thing with them. Like, I'll be with them for the rest of my bodybuilding career as well too. So, it's more than just business. Like, we're all have a family atmosphere, obviously, of course. And, we do a lot of things together out there, of course, considering Gas and Destination headquarters are here. So it's just been a win-win being with both of these guys. And, like I said, having these goals in the IFBB, of course, comes first than just my personal goals. It's knowing that, you have some really good supporters behind you, really good believers, and obviously the fans as well too. And, just want to make everyone happy as well too. So, I'm not a very unselfish person. So, enjoy, making others proud as well, for sure.
Awesome, Joe. One more question I got to ask you quickly. Who's one guy in the IFBB that you would like to be on stage with and ultimately someday beat them?
Present tense or well, obviously present tense because you said beat them. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I'm going to have to say with the best, Big Ramy.
There we go.
Absolutely.
I love it, Joe. Thank you so much for taking some time, man. I know you got a lot going on. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time and sharing some of your wisdom, some of your insights. It's greatly appreciated. Okay.
Absolutely, man. I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. YouTube viewers, thank you so much for listening, tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. That's where I release all of these episodes first. And then take Joe's episode, this episode you're listening to, you're watching right now, share it on all your social media platforms. Please tag Joe, please tag Behind the Muscle so that we know you're listening. We know that you found value in this episode. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.